got an amazing guest in the house tonight. Her name is Sharl Fynn, and she is the proprietor, the owner, the creator of Umoya Therapies New Zealand. Would that be the... Yeah. Umoya Therapies New Zealand, and it's a whole lot of really good stuff. I don't even know where to start. I know there's a lot we can go through. I've got a whole massive list here. But let's just start with telling us about your origin story.
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me, guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so...
Welcome to Wellington.
Oh, thank you. It was a bit of a rocky start. Almost missed my flight, but I'm here. A little bit about me. I grew up on a farm in the middle of KwaZulu Natal. Tiny little farm.
Yeah.
There were sand roads and lots of sugar cane.
Cane? What?
Sugar cane.
Sugar cane.
So
wow.
We would walk and pick the sugar cane, draw and rip it off with our teeth, and that's how we got our sweet fix.
Right.
Yeah.
I love sugar cane.
Yeah. So real farm gal.
Yeah.
I've been in New Zealand for about 8 years. I tend to jump from point to point. Let me just keep it steady. So I grew up in quite a big family, extended family of Finns, but it's just one sibling and myself. I come from a family of traditional healers as well as psychologists, so we had both the academic and the traditional in one family.
I am fascinated with traditional healers from Africa, to be fair.
My father was Zulu, English. My mother is Xhosa, German.
Okay.
So both maternal and paternal side. My grandparents on my father's side were Sangoma. So those are the South African traditional healers. They were a couple. They were both Sangoma. And on my mother's side, we had the healers that were Nyanga. So Nyanga are the healers who work with herbs. We still do divination. We still work with the moon. And Nyanga are the people who can smell disease on you and, start working with you about how are we going to help you to get through this with herbal remedies. I am not a witch doctor. I am a light worker.
Yeah, I'm actually
just clearing that one
involved enough to know the difference. But I know some people are like really stuck in that stuff, right?
Yeah. And so it's just been part of my life from the time I was 6 years old. I would work with things that other people didn't understand. I would see things that other people didn't see. And I grew up with my mother trying to tell me that, it's just your imagination, it's your imagination. You're not really, seeing that, etc. Because it's a lot to deal with. If you've got this child who is so free and expressive with regards to, and communicative with regards to what's going on, but you've got a family that's a bit disconnected.
But you were working, even though you were around it, was it because they wanted to protect you? Would that have been it? Or?
It was, we only had this discussion last year when I went home.
Wow.
Where my mother said, I always believed you. I was just too scared. Okay. I did not know how to help you because I didn't answer my calling.
Right, okay.
And it was familiar in her home because her mother was clairvoyant.
Right.
And she would speak about how they would have these things going on in their home, but because it wasn't explained properly, they feared things that were going on.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That convinced me I'm losing my mind. Are you for real? That's taken many, many years. So even though I knew that I was the only one I felt I was the only one who was experiencing this, I didn't put a block. Because what starts to happen is if you block your own gifting, your ancestors say, hey man, we're relying on you to fix these generational cycles.
Yeah.
And we're calling on you to do so. And when you don't, the whispers start to get louder and louder until they knock you over the head, and before you know it, you're sick.
Yeah.
And then you've got to ask all the questions. So as a result, I made sure that both my kids, my son was 2, and we'd have strangers coming to the house just to listen to him talk. Both my kids spoke like adults from the time they were 2. There was no baby talk.
Yeah.
And he would see things, dream things, and tell you about it, complete strangers, and they would happen. So that was my son. He was really clear.
Yeah.
My daughter was the same. She worked more with herbs as well.
Right.
And she would just have instances where she'd go and she'd know exactly what to mix, etc. She would stop people on the street and have long conversations, especially the homeless, with them. And I mean, we're in the middle of South Africa. I'm sitting and saying, Lord, please, while she's having these conversations as a 2-3-year-old.
Wow.
But there was always support. There was always support. So it was normalized in my home, and they speak really openly about things that they're feeling and are going on. In any case, fast forward, I moved here, and that's when COVID hit soon after, and I realized how out of touch I was with my own body. I realized I was searching for that sense of belonging. I also realized I couldn't go home for it. And I became more connected to Te Ao Māori.
Right.
And that's when I realized the connection and the similarities with the indigenous spiritual language.
Right.
No matter where I looked, we all drew on very similar parallels. But it was also then that I realized that so many women, especially in New Zealand, were so disconnected from themselves.
Yeah.
So disconnected from themselves. That was the sort of beginning of Umoya. Umoya Therapies. Umoya is Zulu for the spirit. So Umoya Therapies is the big house that has different rooms that have everything to do with feeding your spirit. That can mean anything for many people. So that's why it's Umoya Therapies, Umoya Love, Umoya Moves, Umoya Creates. All sorts of things to fill that spiritual cup. I also realized that in New Zealand, people needed to have something tangible, something tactile to start their process of connection. And that's where the body products came in. Because if I can smell something, if I can feel it, and when I'm placing it on my skin, it's love touches. And you're already starting that connection of self-care. And then we can dig deeper when it comes to what we're putting on your skin, why have you chosen that scent. Then we can start having those real discussions about how connected are you to yourself. So that's sort of the short of the long of the long of the long of who I am. Yeah.
I also established earlier before we came on air that we're both Gen X. And I think our generation went through a lot before we started actually talking out loud. And I don't know if it was the same. Was it the same in South Africa as well? There were things that we just didn't talk about.
There were things that were taboo. This was one of them. Especially when you're coming from a mixed race background.
Right.
You're really calling yourself a traditional healer. I'm indigenous. I come from the land of South Africa. Why not? Why do I even have to unpack that my grandparents were Sangoma and they were both Black African, etc. So there were things that we didn't speak about. I mean, I couldn't sit next to you, and now I do it on the regular. I don't care who thinks what. I couldn't sit next to you and say, excuse me, I just need to tell you something. It's not for me. This is a message for you, and have a conversation about what's going on, because I'm so in tune with the interconnectedness between energies. We're all made up of energy. That you speak to me without you even realizing it, if you're open to it. Those things were not spoken about within my generation. Before that, yes, and a bit after, yes. But I almost want to say our generation was a generation of hiding. Hiding a lot. Apologizing for yourself.
Apologizing. I mean, I know in New Zealand and America and UK and stuff, we're known as the latchkey kids, the feral ones, the ones that nobody really paid much attention to. So a lot of things happened to young children from that era that probably would be addressed today. And we're also products of having to deal with those things ourselves, if you know what I mean. So hiding, I would say that's like hiding, or unseen at least. For
many different reasons. And then you also sort of pile on top of that the era of responsibility, especially within our generation,
having to be adults before we'd even grown up.
100%. And not just within the roles in the home. Like, for example, I was taught to cook my first meal at 8 years old.
Yeah, same.
And that was me straight after school. You know, I'm in primary school.
Yeah.
Cooking, cleaning, because that was the role of the girl, you know.
And like a lot of people wouldn't know that was what it was like. Or I thought that's what it was like here for most kids in my generation. Like, you come home, the first thing you do is you're peeling the potatoes, you're peeling the carrots, you're putting these things on the stove, you're doing the washing. Weekends you're mowing the lawn, like that from 8. Yeah.
And that was too much. Like, even the responsibility, I remember from 6 years old, because that's when the earliest memories I have of my gifting. But 6 years old, I was the one that the family would call on to listen to the conversations. I've always been the diffuser. You know, when was I going to get to be a child?
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time last year before, doing inner child work, because I lost that time.
Yeah.
You know? And then it's also those feelings of almost feeling embarrassed to do something as silly as laughing out loud.
Yeah.
That's what a kid would do. That's what your spirit's longing to do, because it missed the sweetness of that.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that piled on responsibility constantly. And at the same time, parents using you as confidants, but then you need to know your place as the child still. It was just chaos.
Yeah.
And then we need to be regulated and well balanced as parents. Ourselves.
I'm surprised our kids survived us sometimes. You know, like when I think back, my modelling for parenting would have been my grandparents. After that, it was just going back to my mother was just like nuts, like it was just complete nuts and didn't make any sense at all. And so for me, I've always reverted back to what I knew that made me feel okay, which was my grandparents' care. But even then, it was very disconnected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, here's the thing with trauma. We know what trauma is. We know the generic sort of description of trauma. But I don't even have to experience anything physically traumatizing, but just hearing your stories gets absorbed by my body as trauma, especially if I'm invested in you, you know. From the ages of 1 to 7 is when our kids absorb everything they're going to absorb into their root chakra, grows with them, and then they act it out as adults. What do we as parents do in front of our kids between the ages of 1 and 7? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we say they're just kids. They're not going to understand. They're not going to remember.
Oh, they remember.
Kids absorb through sight.
Yeah.
Think of superheroes.
Yeah.
People don't really remember what Superman says, right? But the kids remember that he can fly off buildings. They're watching their parents. They're watching the dynamics. They're watching the abuse that happens within the homes between the parents. And they're absorbing that as their normal. And then we grow up. And as teenagers we say, I'm never effing going to be like my mother. I'm going to be completely different. And when you were a mother, who were you like? The same mother that you didn't want to be like.
Yeah.
Because you've absorbed that right into every cell of your body when you were really little. And it's grown with you. And now you are now acting out what you know. It's now surfacing, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's the intergenerational.
And our parents did what they saw their parents. We saw their, And so once we become aware of what this is, I keep going back to the body, because the spirit body, the nervous system, it's everything. Once we are aware of what is sitting on our body and what it means, we start our own healing, but then we know the questions to ask our kids so that we can open up those conversations with them so they can start their healing younger than we did.
Yeah.
So that by the time they have kids, they're more well-rounded, regulated, etc. But it all starts with that understanding of what it is your body is trying to say to you.
So what I'm taking from this is you have to be a well parent to parent, right? You have to be well in yourself. You have to know what's going on with you to parent properly.
Yeah. There's no recipe. There's no recipe.
No,
you can't be perfect, but you can know who you are and you can know where you need to be. And when I say know your body, I'll give you a small example if I can.
Okay, yes.
So our body is divided into left and right, which is the feminine and the masculine. So that's either a relationship with yourself as feminine or masculine, or relationship with a feminine or a masculine, right?
Mm.
Then let's take, for example, lower back pain. A lot of us have lower back pain. You now need to start thinking of what side the lower back pain is worse. I'm going to go into the glutes as well, because that's also hand in hand with lower back pain. That has everything to do with feeling unsupported. Have you felt you're unsupported by the female or the male? Mm. Okay? Do you feel as if you can't ask for help from the female or the male? Are you too proud to ask for help? Even if it's breaking me, I'm going to do it because I'm not going to ask you for help. Mm. I can't count on you to support me. Those are the types of things that happen in our body. You know, I'm not saying, my shoulder's sore, it must mean this. If you've tried to work it out manually, if you've tried to go to the doctor and it just keeps recurring, we have to start looking at deeper. Mm. You know, we have to start looking at a deeper level, because our bodies are communicating all the time.
Yeah.
Even our organs. Waking up with a tight chest all the time, the lungs hold on to grief. You know, what have we not grieved? What have we not processed? People have forgotten this. Think of our grannies and our great-grannies. You must put Vicks on your feet, gal.
We used to do that here.
They knew exactly what was going on with the body. You know why? From a reflexology perspective, the sole of the foot represents the whole body. Vicks opens up the pores, opens up circulation.
Yeah.
You're putting Vicks on the ball of the foot, right? The ball of the foot is the lungs. And so from a reflexology perspective, it affects the actual organ.
See, like, I've always put Vicks on the feet of my kids, not knowing why that's a good thing, just that was the thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't have money to go to the, oh yeah, like Nana used to do this.
Exactly.
Put the Vic on your feet.
They knew, but there was no talking. Just what you said about our
Right.
generation, there was not much talking. So I'm here to remind, so we can
Right.
get back to that state of, I need to understand what I'm ready to process now, because when the pain is there, it's your body saying, we're ready. Even if your mind thinks I'm not ready, your body's saying, I'm ready.
Right.
I'm ready to let this go.
Well, I am absolutely ready for this interview. It has come at a absolutely perfect time in my life. I want to ask you, can you explain the significance of utilizing like traditional African healing methods in your practice?
Okay, so I've explained the history. When I have clients, patients come in to me, it's really imperative to understand background. I do a lot of body work in terms of specific ancestral points on the body, and when things are blocked, and this is where the traditional African stuff comes in,
Right.
things are blocked, we then have those discussions about how we can work energetically to get rid of those ancestral blocks. We then look into things like diet, because believe it or not, your body has its spiritual food, and your body tells you, I don't like this,
Yeah.
but we ignore. I don't like all the cheese you're giving me. I don't like it because I get phlegmy all the time.
Right. Yeah.
That's not saying I want you to have a picky diet. It's saying in order for me to be well aligned, in order for me to be present and to feed you back, I need my spiritual food.
Right.
You know,
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have those sorts of discussions, and that comes back to the traditional African way of looking through herbs. I work a lot with aromatherapy oils. Just because it's quite difficult to get medicinal grade herbs here unless you're a herbalist, you know. And then we also fight the sort of system where this is my qualification, but nobody really understands. And in order to get people to understand, am I really going to do another qualification just so I can access certain things? So we work with what we have. But it's also helping you as a person coming to me to understand that what it is you're putting into your body is not just there as a remedy, it's there to stir certain emotion in order for you to release. So the significance is all to do with reconnecting.
Because have you ever come across people, and I know I'm one, I've never ever been able to diet in my life. Like I was never a person that could stick for more than a few days to a diet, and then I would almost be craving stuff. And it's all, like, I've always had this very big disconnection between food and wellness, like feeling well, and trying to align myself with that sort of thing, because I hear people go, oh, I'm going on a fast for 7 days or 40 days, or I'm only eating this for blah blah, and I'm like, I don't even know how you do that. Like, I eat when I'm hungry, and I eat whatever's there, and I'm wondering whether my disconnection actually comes from that survival mode of not having food and having to find like the stuff like that. Do you have cases where people are that disconnected from? Because I know I am. I'd like to get in. I'd like to be able to say, this is my spiritual food, and I know, yeah.
100% Leah, but permission to ask a personal question?
Yeah, sure.
My first question to you would be then, did you feel like you were heard?
No.
No.
Never.
Did you feel that even though you vocalized, it was never exactly what you wanted to say, because it couldn't come from the pit of your stomach where you needed it to come from?
Yeah, that's...
Right.
Yeah.
There's your disconnect.
Right.
Our thyroid sits here in our throat.
Right.
When that throat chakra is blocked, and when the throat chakra is blocked, so is the heart chakra. Right? When that throat chakra is blocked, it affects the thyroid. The thyroid affects our metabolism. So you can try as much as you like, but if that thyroid is slowed all the way down because it's blocked, you can smell food and gain weight. You know?
Yeah.
And then the brain takes over, because our cravings come from the brain.
Mm.
You must have that, you must have that, you must have that. Because when you're craving sweet stuff, that reminds you of the sweetness of the inner child. You know, love was sweet, it was just so lovely and kind and gentle, and it made you feel good. Chocolate does that. You associate those feelings with sweet, you know?
Yeah. Because I'm a diabetic, I associate it with zero Coke, frozen Cokes from McDonald's now, because I'm a diabetic.
Yeah.
But I still have this thing for snow freeze ice creams.
Yeah.
Like, I love a snow freeze. I've stopped the chocolate stuff.
The sweetness of the child.
Right.
To feed that. And then I'll also ask you, how willing are you to really listen?
Very willing. I'm
Is
like
your
so
mind
sick of
saying
it.
that?
I think my body's saying it actually, because, you know.
Because if you're willing to hear, then it takes quiet time in the right space and asking your body, what is it you want? And then the very first thing that comes to your mind is your intuition. But you know what we do? We talk ourselves out of it.
Yes.
What do you want? Don't say, what don't you want? It's not, because, you know, we've got to change our words as well. Tell the universe, tell your body, what is it that you want? I want more, whatever. Okay, and follow through.
Right.
You've already raised your vibration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moving more. I'm not saying go and exercise. Moving more.
Yeah.
That opens up chakras. We're sitting here in a state of concentration, but our cortisol levels are through the roof. Cortisol is a stress hormone.
Yeah.
We're the duck on the water. Smooth on the surface, but the feet are
like
just
mad.
going bonkers. And people know about cortisol, and so the books say, yes, practice more mindfulness, etc., to reduce your cortisol levels. Cortisol can only be released or excreted from the body through sweat and tears.
Right.
So when people go for exercise, they say, it makes me feel better after. Don't you feel good after a good cry? It's cortisol leaving your body.
Yeah.
So moving. So all of those sort of things create that awareness and embodiment where you are actually one with your body, and then you can ask the questions. And when the answer comes, listen. One step at a time though. Let's not change the world in a minute. One step at a time. Yeah.
You got a question, Liz?
So you got to rein me in, because I can go on and on.
No, this is good. This is good.
Oh no, you made a very interesting point about food, because a month ago I did a 2-day fast with my friends, and I realized how much my mind was latching onto the idea of food to make myself feel secure.
Yeah, safety.
And just because I was feeling like, yeah, it was interesting. Like I was just thinking about food because I wanted to feel safe.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not anti-food, but like, I noticed this pattern in myself generally. When I'm not feeling so well, I will get myself a takeout, for instance, which won't be the healthiest meal, but it'll make me feel better because I associate good food with like good times.
Yeah.
So to elevate my mood, I'll get a takeout or something like that.
Food is everything in most cultures. Let's think about it this way. There's a death, there has to be food, right? There's a wedding, there has to be food, right? Your partner's broken up with you, aw, let's have an ice cream.
Yeah.
You did well at school, let's celebrate. So we associate all these really memorable feelings with food, and it becomes a comfort. Fasting, the reason fasting is really good, besides all the health reasons, it's the discipline that your spirit body is asking you for. Because if you can remove that, the poisons that come with some of the foods we're eating can release from the body, and your connectedness to self and to your meditation is far clearer.
Yeah.
Even the types of foods, for example,
No, you finish.
there's many studies that have been done on the crystals in water.
Yes, I've seen some of those.
You can do it with plants. Do it at home. Talk, say all those things, take your frustrations out from the day on one plant. Wada, you know what you're going to say. Exactly another plant, say all the beautiful things you'd love to be said to you, to one plant. Water them the same. Watch how one plant dies versus the one with the positive affirmation, the positive intention, thrives. Yeah? And that's just from the energy we are putting in, whether it's a low vibrational or high vibrational, with an already alive organism, which is the plant. Right? Same with your water. You want to put positive intention in your space with the water that you drink, because this is going to feed your body. And you want it to, they are alive, it's alive. You want it to come with that vibration that's going to sustain. Doesn't have to be organic, because who the heck can afford organic in this day and age?
No.
But we can do other things to make sure that the produce we're putting into our bodies is of a good energetic level.
What you're saying about food actually really reminded me of my grandmother was a really great cook. And so my memories of eating well was with her. But then as a teenager with my mum, it was all about having a fight with food. And I think she was having a fight with food. And so I went through stages of being anorexic and bulimic in my teenage years. So I was either not eating at all or purging, because, it was the 80s. It was, the 70s, and it was all very anorexic looking, and this is... I have this real love-hate thing with food.
But you had a real love-hate thing with your mother?
Yes, totally.
There you go. And you manipulating the food was the only control you had in the game between you and your mother.
Wow, I've never thought about it that way.
So,
wow.
I can't control you, and I can't control your mouth, and I can't control the things that you say that make me feel a certain way. But I can control this thing that I associate with good feelings from my gran. I can control that. That's going into my mouth. It's the only form of control you had when it came to your relationship with your mother. And so you punished yourself in different ways. Take it away completely.
I've never thought about it like that. That's amazing. So what are the ways that you guide individuals to listen to their bodies and reconnect? Like, what are the tangible ways that you do that?
Okay, so I've just done a workshop last night, and it was a reconnection workshop. We did some movement. Movement opens up the chakras. It also starts a process of release. We did body scanning. None of us take the time to scan our bodies. Autopilot is the order of the day for most of us, you know? So just taking a minute before you pick up your phone, as soon as your alarm goes off and you start the scrolling, taking a minute to just close your eyes and just feel from head to toe what's going on. You know, so we do body scanning, and then you feel the little niggles, etc. Breath work. A lot of us are sitting here and are hyperventilating. When you breathe, you're giving every cell in your body the oxygen it needs to survive. We aren't doing that because, man, we're not taking the time to breathe. Yeah. So certain breath work techniques. And then we go through a body mapping exercise. We mark down every single aspect of our body where we feel pain, uneasiness, heaviness, etc. And then I guide you through unpacking what that means, what your body is holding on to. So everybody leaves with a different map.
Right.
And they get to go and start working through that. So we end off with the meditation to sort of release the stuff that we've brought up. Important to speak out, and that's why we do it in a workshop forum.
Right.
If I've said, okay, so Leah, you've said that your right shoulder is just constantly sore. And then I'd ask, is there a male in your life that you're constantly worried about? Because the shoulders have nothing to do with us. They're the weight of somebody else who's constantly offloading to us, and because we are connected to them, we absorb it as our own. You know? And then exactly that expression you've made, you've got to think about this now. And then you've got to start thinking about boundaries to put within that relationship, because it's not for you to take on the pain and the stress and the etc. of the male. And so this is the sort of stuff we go through from head to toe with the body during the workshops. And then we go through a release meditation to help you to start the release process. And yeah, that's what one of the workshops entail, the body reconnection workshops. And then we have release workshops where I work with rungu, so that would be like the rako. In Africa we call it a rungu or nobkiri, but it's a wood. Marked with specific colors, because every color you choose means something. And we go through the reflexes on the feet, moving through the rungu. And you will write a word on the rungu that is something that you want to evoke every time you step onto that stick. So for example, hope and peace. Every time I stand on there, the stick represents the earth. I'm exchanging my rubbish in exchange for hope and peace. And we move through every organ and work through what we're releasing. That's the release workshop that may be coming up soon.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's something you can do at home.
Do you find that, because you work a lot with women, is that correct? Do you find that you have women that will be in these workshops and they've realised they've never been seen or heard before?
Every single time. A simple question I ask most of the women is, what do you like? The room goes silent. You know what your partner likes, you know what your children like, you know what your friends like, but you really have to think about what it is you like, because you've disconnected from yourself.
Yeah.
You know, we are so used to giving, that we lose ourselves in the process. So yep, every single time. I do some work with men as well. It's starting to happen more and more. I'm getting called in to work with men, in the hope that they go home and work with their little boys, because I found that it's quite a Kiwi thing. Like the first time I moved here, and it was like, take a concrete pull. What the heck does that mean? That's such a Kiwi thing where, you know, well, in Africa as well, don't cry, boys don't cry.
Drink a cup of concrete.
Yeah.
We're harden up, princess.
Yeah. We're not telling you, you know, that we want you walking around crying non-stop with a box of tissues. But your feelings are just as valid. If a man kicks his toe or his foot on the corner of a bedpost, it's just as painful as if I am, but it's okay for me to cry. And so what starts to happen is we teach them that their feelings mean nothing. Suppress. And when it's time to navigate relationships as adult men, we then say, you don't understand me. Why won't you talk to me? Why won't you show me any emotion? How? I was never taught to do so.
Yeah.
Or that lid pops right off the jar, and then we have this vicious animal that's been caged up all their life. you know?
Yeah.
So we do some work with men as well. But I feel that our women are so complex and so multi-layered that we've got to start there, because we are also the life givers. We are also the leaders, you know. Our families look up to us. So if we start our process, I want you to be able to ask your son who's saying, I don't want to go to school because my tummy hurts. I want you to be able to say to him, what is going on at school then? Because it's not your tummy.
Yeah.
You're anxious about something, you know? But if you're not connected with your own body, how do we start the healing forward? Yeah.
I think I became a mum quite young. I don't know, it's not really young for my generation, because a lot of my cohort was having kids at 15. But it's not that age these days, I don't think. I don't think women are having kids as young as that. So by the time I had my first son, I was only just turned 21, like literally the week before. And I know that was a really weird space to be in, and also then become single mother really quickly. That was a really weird space to be in. And I think I've just lost track of where I was going with that.
That's okay. Your body wasn't ready to talk about that, right?
Yeah. But,
anxiety, stomach, son.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about. Not wanting to go to school. You need to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, and having those conversations with them. I think I got better with time. I think it's always the hardest on the first kid, yeah?
Oh, totally.
Because it's like you're given this bundle of joy and you really don't have a roadmap at all.
Totally.
At least by the second time you've improved on some things, I think.
Yeah. I just, was it this year? I called my daughter quite emotional because I've got a 21-year-old daughter. And I said to her, you know, I knew how hard it was to be a solo mum. I didn't for 1 second realize how hard it was to be the firstborn daughter to a solo mum. And so I did all my apologizing because I knew I was hard on her. I knew that she already was navigating being a child to a solo mum with a dad who wanted nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
You know? We are in an amazing space right now, but I made the conscious decision to start having those conversations. Our parents were not going to apologize for jack shit when we were young. And I feel every parent should be teaching. All our actions are teaching our children. You better apologize to me for what you've done, but why? You don't apologize to me, you know? So yeah, we need to have those conversations. We need to have those deeper conversations. And the listening is what's more important than anything else.
Can you elaborate on the role of natural body care products in uplifting spiritual health?
Lovely. Again, like I said, I had to come up with a sneaky way to get these conversations going, because it really is a trust thing. I needed to be at your most vulnerable in order for this thing to work, you know. And I found, especially in a Kiwi setting, because even our African people were still as closed off. So I'm going to talk about in a Kiwi setting.
Yeah.
We were really close to the real talk that I had come from.
Right.
There was no spatial awareness where I came from. I want to feel your skin next to me, even if you're a stranger. I want to sit that close to you, you know? So having conversations was easy. But when I got here, it was a case of, you know, everybody was in this off sort of position.
They've got like a space around them that you can't cross into.
100%.
Yeah.
So I had to come up with a sneaky way. And I knew that people were into natural stuff. So I focused most of my body products on shea butter because I knew the other benefits of shea butter. Africans will know it's just magic, you know, for the body and on the skin. And then I came up with all these fragrances that were going to appeal to people. Those are the gifts.
Right.
And I thought, well, if there's something, as I say, that they can pick up, that they can see, we're not talking about the stuff that they just don't want to get into right now, to create that level of trust, or even better, getting them to make it for themselves, because gifting yourself was something that had become so foreign. We apologize. I'll do for myself last. I need to make sure the kids have got that, you know, so-and-so's got their so-and-so's, me last. So gifting ourselves was foreign. So even in the case of some of the workshops, I get people to make their own products. So you go through that process of, I'm making this for myself as a gift,
right.
you know, putting it on their skin, smelling it, evoking the senses, and then telling themselves, this feels so amazing and I made it for myself. And you already start that connection with self, because a lot of us don't even touch ourselves. I'm not talking about that kind of touching.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, you know, just standing in front of the mirror for more than 1 minute while we're putting our face stuff on, even if we are doing that, putting it all over our chest and our breast and just having a look at ourselves. That wasn't happening. But if I've got something that smells nice, feels nice, I've made it for myself, I'm going to at least start that process because it's tangible. And then follow up, come for another workshop, and we throw conversations like this in until you're ready to come for a whole reconnection session. Yeah.
Is that the somatic stuff?
So the somatic stuff we were talking about is how your body reacts physically to something going on mentally or emotionally. So shoulder pain, for example, or lower back pain, that's an easier one. Lower back pain, that's where your kidneys are, right? Your body's presenting the pain. That's the somatic part. The emotional part is that the kidneys are holding on to fear. So now we've got to deal with what is it? So the emotional is affecting you physically. The somatic part is the physical. Soma means the body.
Okay. Yeah.
Somatic experiencing, say for example, there was the doctor who discovered the somatic experiencing. It's another 4-year qualification. But somatic experiencing is where the body reenacts over and over and over again, almost on an involuntary basis, what's happened in that space of trauma until the trauma leaves the body.
Right.
So the doctor who came up with it had an accident. I think he was knocked off his bike and he had broken something. I'm not too sure of the details. And because he was a doctor, he could sort of first aid himself. Paramedics got there and he said to them, just leave me, I need to do this, because his arm had started making the movement over and over again of bracing for the fall, because that's when the trauma hit.
Right.
Until it couldn't do it anymore. I once had wahine I was working with, and we were going through rungu release work. And what started to happen was, in the middle of it all, she just started like throwing herself back and her arms forward constantly, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. And I said to her, let your body do what it needs to do. Safe space. Everybody's here to support you. And she continued and continued. She was exhausted, man, for about 5 minutes straight, until she just... And I consulted with her afterwards, because by this time she was completely vulnerable. She spoke about repeated sexual abuse. So that was her body trying to push away. That's somatic experiencing. Same movement until the trauma releases from the body.
I remember when I was still living in Taranaki, and I was working with the New Plymouth Women's Centre and with the Māori group within that. And one of our fires said, sexual abuse is carried in the hips and around this area. So when you see women with really big legs, really big, it's usually a sign that sexual abuse has happened. Aside from, some people are naturally built that way, but
some people have got them curves, girl.
But that's also, it was almost like a protection.
200%.
Yeah.
It also termination of pregnancies, miscarriages consistently. They also sit in the hips.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can start to, depending on the length of the pregnancy, sometimes the mums wouldn't know. You can tell if it would have been a female or male, depending on the side, you know. But hiding. And so the body holds on to it, and the inflammation happens in that area because it's holding on to it. Us breaking out, watch your body. Sometimes you'll break out in different patches in different places on your body. That's your body saying, we're wanting to let go of this now, but because you don't know your body's map, you don't know what it's wanting to get rid of.
Yeah.
You know, your body is doing the work all the time. It just needs you to get on board.
These sound amazing. Like, I am definitely pulling through for whatever you're doing.
Oh, awesome.
Next month, May?
Next month I'm hoping for, I haven't confirmed my date, it just depends on numbers. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Well, we'll make sure we'll get that out to as many people as possible.
Where do you host these workshops? Is it in Wellington?
It is in, I host them all over.
Right.
Auckland, Wellington, Tauranga. I did my first one in Wellington last night at a yoga studio, is it Karori?
Oh yeah, Corey, yeah.
Yeah. In the yoga studio there, and it was beautiful. People who needed to be there were there. It was really beautiful for them. But yeah, I would love to be able to go on a hike with a bunch of really like-minded people.
Up through those Corey hills.
And connect with nature.
Yeah.
And do the release work there.
Yeah.
You know, even just, some people aren't screamers, you know? Some people can't stand on the top of the mountain and scream, even though that shakes your spirit up, your body needs it. But even just going for a really hard out run until you feel like you want to throw up, that shakes your spirit up. It gets rid of all the heaviness that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
But people just need to be aware. It's learning a language like Te Reo, like Zulu. It's learning a language.
Yeah.
It's your body's language that we've forgotten.
I wanted to ask you specifically about BIPOC women and just the challenges that BIPOC women, Pacifica, Māori, African, Caribbean women face in today's society that Umoya Love aims to address through its mission, specifically.
That's your body being beautiful. Let's think of our history. We know we were not shaped in the way that was considered normal. We know our girls matured at a much earlier age and were made to feel like big-breasted, big hips, etc. You're so sexualized, firstly. Secondly, there's something wrong with you. And that shame that our mothers carried and passed on to us. So being comfortable in the fact that, yes, you are different, but your different is beautiful, and your different is only different here.
Do you find there's a difference between when you're dealing with a group of BIPOC as opposed to Pākehā women? Do you find there's a difference in the things that they're actually trying to deal with?
Yes.
Yeah.
In all honesty, most of the people who have come to see me have been BIPOC, which I'm grateful for. We are an expressive people, you know, and we've forgotten how to be. And so even I have women who get really emotional the minute we touch, you know. Even allowing yourself the grace of crying because your body's trembling, you've learned to hide, to be embarrassed about, you know. Whereas that is what your body wants to sort of release and get rid of.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of the issues that have come from BIPOC women, yes, it's an abuse thing, but it's a generational feeling of never being good enough.
Yeah.
Never being good enough.
And it being reinforced in the society as well.
And the father wound. The
Yeah.
father wound. Like, I often think of old school South Africa where our fathers were forced to work out. So already the family was broken up. So already we didn't see a healthy relationship with mums and dads. Already we learned to love the unavailable men, you know. So the father wound within our community is really strong. And it's that you are good enough, you know. Look in the right direction. If you're not looking in this direction, you're always going to look in the same unavailable direction, you know, because we haven't done that sort of healing. We don't know how to be in our feminine. Because we've watched our mothers do it all.
Yeah.
We've watched our mothers be in the masculine and not ask for help. And
Yes.
so
Like
we
that's
don't know how to be in the feminine. It's learning that BIPOC woman. That's the difference between them. And Pākehā, yes, we have abuse. We have other sort of dependency stuff. But that deep-set hurt and shame that comes with BIPOC women is just, it's heartbreaking sometimes.
Yeah. Because I know it's a very real thing where, like, you see on, you know, Instagram and things these days about people talking about women coming into their feminine and men saying they're too masculine. And, the reality is, I think, for a lot of BIPOC women in New Zealand is that we had no choice.
Had no choice. We can change it because, you know what, I want a man to open the door for me. I want a man to do things for me. I know I'm capable of doing it myself.
Yeah, but we get, like, why do we have to do everything ourselves?
Because that's been our normal, and we've been made to feel bad about not being superwoman. I'm not here to be anybody else's superwoman except my own.
Yeah.
If you're not on your own team, how is anybody else going to be on your team?
That's been my mantra for a year now.
You know?
I am not superwoman, guys.
100%.
Yeah.
And the thing with doing it all as women, every time you do something more, you put somebody else above you on your own list. And then we expect somebody as a partner to come into our life and treat us as number one. How? They're matching our energy. You know?
Yeah.
So saying no, asking for help, which is one of the hardest things to do as a woman who is in their wounded feminine.
And especially like if you've been a kid that's always been expected to do it themselves, you just automatically, you ask and then that's it. I know I'm guilty of that. I'll say something, if I don't get a response, I'll do it myself, otherwise it won't get done.
Most of us.
Yeah. And it's exhausting living in that space all the time. While you're here, the whole time we've been talking, I've had a pain at the bottom of my neck. What does that mean?
Which side? Who's been the pain in your neck?
Let me name the names. Let me out them on radio right now. Is that what that is?
What side is it on?
It's right in the middle.
Right in the
like
middle.
where, like it's
The
right
base.
there. Like, and also when I was truck driving a lot back in the day, and the vibration of the trucks, I was always stiff right between the shoulder blades. And you go to the cheap massage places, and I go, that part of your back feels like a rock. But I didn't get lower back pain. I didn't get back pain anywhere else. It was always right between my shoulder blades.
So can I ask for your neck? Can I ask, is this the first time you've actually said it, being present, that I was never heard?
Probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is it your
With somebody
throat?
listening to me?
Yeah. No. So you've started to activate your throat.
Oh.
So remember, we're three-dimensional now when we're speaking about chakras. Your chakras are not only in the front of your body, right through. So the
Right.
base of your neck would be your throat chakra.
So you hear that, people? I need to be heard now. You're giving me a pain in the neck.
So
Quite literally.
So being able to say things like, my words matter. I'm okay with them not hearing me, but I'm going to say it to release myself from it.
I think also, like, it was interesting because before we were talking about being mixed race, and that whole dismissiveness of who we are as people in this country. I think that's also a way that you're not heard.
Totally.
Because you get it from both sides. You get it from whatever your other side is and your African side as well. That whatever you have to say is of no importance because you don't belong to their ethno-nationalist group. And I think that we are valid. I happen to think that we do have I saw this post online, and even some dude in wherever it was written recognized that African people in New Zealand exist. There is such a thing as African Americans, African Australians, and African New Zealanders. But we're not acknowledged, we're not seen,
The thing is, though, I think just in general, our people need to realize the power of unity. We're so colonized within ourselves that it's easier to turn on each other as opposed to combine, and say, look at this force to be reckoned with. No, we've got so many crabs in a barrel that instead of saying,
bang on. She said
instead
it.
of saying, let's unite, let's see the bigger picture, what is the outcome here?
Yeah.
Oh no, look at good old Leah, she thinks she's too good for her own good, let me bring her back down to zero. And so what good is that?
It's like an African tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
With that, we have got like 18 seconds to go. So I'm just going to say tonight, Bliss Bar, 10 p.m, $10 at the door. Don't rock up there with no money. Bring your deep pockets. And we'd love to have you back again, Sharl. It's been brilliant having you on. And have a great weekend.